How's it going, you guys? I'm going to come to you today and discuss a few topics with you. We're going to go into a little bit about the rewards of athletics after high school. We're going to touch on the overall revenue generated by universities and discuss one of the most controversial topics that kind of aroused through conversation since way back and up until now, which is paying college athletes. Well, first of all, if we're going to start about the rewards here, most of you are kind of somewhat familiar with the rewards that are offered to student athletes after high school, kind of on an intercollegiate level. The main one that most of you may be familiar with is the athletic scholarships. These are very beneficial to our student athletes that are pursuing to play at a collegiate level. The athletic scholarships cover majority of the fees and financial burdens that can come to come with attending college or a university. What the athletic scholarship is pretty much a grant that's awarded to student athletes on a collegiate level. It takes care of things like tuition. It takes care of room and board. It takes care of books. It takes care of other expenses that may come with the attendance at a university or college. The athletic scholarship is a huge reward for student athletes on the college level. It kind of lifts that financial burden from them being worried about, how they're going to pay for classes, how they're going to get through semesters. And also brings ease to the parents as well, knowing that these expenses are all covered through the scholarship. And the reason I say that is because if you kind of look at most universities, the average cost of attendance for uh, college would be roughly about the $22,000, over a 4 year span. So to have a athletic scholarship in place to kind of take over that and fill that void and have the means of paying for your kid to get a free education in a sense. He or she is getting a full ride to a university or a college with a free education and allowing them to succeed and better themselves for the future. I'm pretty sure that's the game plan for all of us with our children is kind of to get them to that next level. So that's one benefit that we all know and that I believe is huge and the next step after high school for these athletes. Um, Another one I like to touch on would be, in addition, would be kind of like the medical reward. When student athletes play on that next level, of course, we all know our kids are in sports. We've been around it, whether it's football, basketball, soccer, hockey, lacrosse, you name it. There's always huge risk for injuries when you plan in that activity. So the NCAA put together what they call a catastrophic injury insurance program. And what that do is it kind of take care of any it assists the student athletes with catastrophic injuries while that can occur when they're participating in activity there at the university. So the breaking of the femurs in football or the collarbone from a rough tackle or shin splits from playing soccer or being hit by a baseball during a baseball game. This can be catastrophic events that can kind of sideline your kid and kind of bring a burden to you as far as understanding how you're going to pay for these medical expenses, which we all know can get pretty expensive. Well, the NCAA kind of jumped on top of that and believe that they should hold responsibility in assisting these student athletes and making sure that they're fully covered for things of that matter. So I think that is one huge benefit there, just knowing that your kids are medically covered for any catastrophic injuries that they, potentially can't avoid or that can occur during play in one of the activities that they're involved in at that next level. Another one I like to speak on is one that the NCAA also administered for student athletes. It's called a Special Assistance Fund. This one is one that not that many people know about. It's pretty unique. And what it does is pretty much kind of help those students that are need-based students. So the one that they're seeing are struggling financially or need financial assistance. They kind of set up grants for those student athletes to help provide them with things like clothing, um, The money go towards clothing, shoes, trips back home, or not consistently, but 1 or 2 trips back home to kind of help out with getting them back home to seeing that family. Also provide them with the monies to uh, purchase school supplies or certain prescription medication that's not covered under a scholarship. Another one that I believe is a beneficial and a reward as well would be the student athlete tutoring programs. One may ask how that is a reward. I think it's very beneficial because we know, well, most of you know, or most of you don't. Well, when an athlete is playing on a collegiate level, their time is pretty much all taken up by preparation for that sport and classes. So they don't have the time to take advantage of the on campus learning centers or tutoring programs because they're wake up, they're at practice, they're in school, I mean, in classes, and kind of trying to balance that off time with getting in and getting some assistance with learning is kind of hard for them. So most universities set up programs to allow them to come in and get that one-on-one tutoring session with professors at the university. Sometimes it's certified teaching assistants and also licensed tutors. So they give them the opportunity to sit down and get that one-on-one attention with them and help them better their studies, kind of elevate and move on from semester to semester and eventually graduate from that university. So that's one beneficial reward there. Following that, I mean, hearing all those things, some of you may wonder of how are the universities funding these scholarships or funding these medical programs or funding things like the tutoring programs. Well, that all comes from the revenue that's generated from the athletic department there at the university. So, to give you a better understanding of how these university athletic programs are generating these revenues, these are done through the avenues of school merchandise, media rights through TV deals, ticket sales to attend the games, sponsorships. Those all play huge roles into generating that revenue for an athletic program. Essentially, these universities that are top universities are cashing in on these different revenue generators by being the highly anticipated sport at that university. The fans are coming out and spending their money on tickets to attend the game, or media outlets are wanting to display that highly anticipated basketball game, and it's getting the viewers. And the more viewers that tune in to watch that game, the more revenue is generated. And essentially, the university athletic program does get their cut, and it leads to a kind of question mark of the biggest question mark from all is the NCAA kind of prides themselves on being a nonprofit and kind of just doesn't add up as far as where the money is going. Of course, the revenue that is generated by the athletic programs is beneficial in ways of kind of helping funding some of those things that I explained to you, like the scholarships, funding for the teams that are not creating as much revenue to kind of help them get equipment and things of that matter, is also going into the tutoring programs to kind of help that stay alive. But the amount of money that's being made doesn't match the amount of money that's being given out to student athletes. Take, for example, the NCAA March Madness tournament. Last year, studies showed that they grossed over $1 billion in revenue. Essentially, those schools that participated in the tournament, it's provided a cut or a percentage of those earnings from the NCAA, but most of it doesn't add up to the amount of money that they're receiving, which kind of leads to the most controversial thing. Like I said, is if the NCAA is generating so much revenue, millions of dollars and billions of dollars off the play of these student athletes, from football to baseball tournaments to bowl games and different things of that matter, why are they not putting out any money towards the student athletes to put in their pockets for their personal keeping? We see college coaches right now, the Nick Sabans making over $3 million a year. We see the president of the NCAA roughly making a $1 million salary. And most people kind of raise the question if the the athletes are the ones who's bringing the attention to the sport, or bringing in the fans, or getting the attention of these media outlets to kind of broadcast these games. Why are they not compensated for their performance in these events? Which brings up a good question, but my understanding and perspective of to kind of give you an insight of why they're not playing is why they're not being paid. It goes a little bit more in depth to actually making that happen. The biggest thing with that is kind of Title IX. Title IX pretty much states that it should be equal opportunity for all teams, no matter any race, sex, gender, that all teams should be treated equally. So if football at the University of Texas is the highest grossing sport, and we have the swim team at Texas as the least grossing sport, is would it be fair to pay college athletes that's on a football team the same amount as you're going to pay the swim team? Because essentially you do have to pay those guys those ladies or gentlemen the same amount. It can't be any discrepancies about unfair treatment of giving the football team X amount of dollars because they make most of the revenue that's coming into the athletic department, whereas trying to give the swimming team less amount of money because they're not grossing as much revenue from their play or people coming out and watch. It goes a little more in depth too as well. It kind of makes it hard to pay these players because essentially it comes into contracts, and it goes into things of insurance and insuring those athletes, like with workers' comp. They're injured on a job, and a biggest thing would be lawsuits. It would be multiple lawsuits every day that would come from people believing, student athletes believing they're treated unfairly, or one team is being kind of catered to more than the other team because they're the bigger sporting team there at the university. So there's a lot of small things that pay into it. Essentially, I do think it would also take away from the focus of the whole term of athletes on the collegiate level is the broad term of being a student athlete. That kind of says that they're a student first and then an athlete second. And if you are looking to compensate these players for their performance, it kind of will shy away from them wanting to focus their attention towards getting their education and graduating with a degree, to whereas most of them may be more concerned about who got the biggest contract, or why I'm not making this much money when the same guy in another conference is not as good as I am, and he's making more money than me. So it kind of throws a loop into that, and it makes it real hard for you to kind of set up a guideline or a structure to figure out how to compensate players for their performance. Right now, I do believe essentially that what can help would be awarding a bigger stipend for the college athletes. I feel like there's a lot of money left over that you can essentially kind of give a bigger amount of stipend to these athletes to put money in their pocket to take care of those other expenses that are not covered by the scholarships, or things of just a daily life. Because essentially they are playing out there, and there are the reason that the money is coming in. They're legit the cash cow. So I feel they should reap the benefits somehow, some way, if these white collar guys are up top are receiving these $1 million salaries, or coaches getting paid these $3 million contracts. I feel that is unfair to the players, but I don't think it would ever be a structure or some form of concept put together to compensate players on a collegiate level for their play. I just think it's just too complex. It's too many fine details that got to go into it to actually make that happen. So it will really make it hard for them to be compensated. I think they should find a different way to kind of generate some of that money back to these student athletes in a form of maybe the revenue go higher, they get a bit higher of a stipend, depending on how much revenue they generate, and they should change the percentage of how much money they are given or awarded for a stipend. I think that would be essential as well. So that's kind of a ballpark of everything, kind of giving you the understanding of the rewards that athletes can benefit after high school. Also, kind of getting into how revenue is generated on a collegiate level, and then kind of touching a little bit on the controversy of why athletes are not paid or compensated on a collegiate level for their play when they generate so much revenue. We will leave the floor open after this for any questions or concerns. If you have any, please feel free to ask me. Thank you for your time and look forward to seeing you all at the next meeting.